Hi folks, welcome back. If you felt like the country's running on vibes and vandalism, well, you're not wrong. We've officially entered the era where a brick through a cop car is just community expression, and Democrats call it peace, as long as it's their side doing the throwing. Maxine Waters recently called the LA riots calm. Judy Chu said it's all under control, and Gavin Newsom somehow found a way to blame Trump again. At this point, California might as well hand out Molotov cocktails with every voter registration card they give out to an illegal. So today, we're breaking down the greatest hits of delusion, denial, and how Democrats are destroying California while pretending the sky isn't falling. Now let's talk about what's actually happening in Los Angeles right now. Not the sanitized press releases from City Hall, not the delusional spin from Gavin Newsom, and definitely not the carefully worded euphemisms coming from Democrat lawmakers pretending nothing is wrong. What's happening is this. Mobs of criminals are looting businesses across the city. Adidas stores, Jordan stores, jewelry shops, gold merchants, immigrant-owned businesses, even a sushi restaurant in Little Tokyo. I saw all of this with my own eyes. In fact, you can see me at the end of this clip filming this happening. Hundreds of people flooding the streets, smashing windows, dragging out cash registers, clothing, whatever they could grab, robbing these stores while LAPD cruisers rolled past like it was just another Tuesday. On multiple occasions, police didn't intervene until the looting had already ended, and in some cases, not at all. It wasn't just shocking, it was orchestrated neglect. Now let's be real. What is happening here isn't justice or about deportations or any coherent cause. This is opportunistic chaos dressed up as activism. You don't steal jewelry and Jordan 1s because you're upset about ICE. You do it because you've been told implicitly and explicitly that there wouldn't be consequences, primarily by our mayor. Because the political class in the state has made it clear that accountability is out and selective victimhood is in. And that's the real story here. This is what happens when a culture trades morality for ideology, when criminality is excused, rebranded, or ignored because it fits the narrative. The left has spent years dismantling basic law enforcement under the banner of equity, hollowing out public safety while insisting it's all for progress. But progress doesn't look like immigrant-owned stores being looted by mobs while cops play spectator. That's not social justice, that's societal decay. You want to know why they hit a sushi spot in Little Tokyo? Because they could. Because the cultural rot is so deep, the political cowardice so pervasive, and the moral confusion so complete that no one's willing to draw the line anymore. This isn't just a failure of law and order. It's a failure of leadership, a failure of values, and a preview of the kind of future you get when the civilization starts apologizing for its own existence. This is no longer just a Los Angeles story. It's an American one. And the longer we pretend that this is the new normal, the more of this we're going to get. And if it depends on Democrats across the country, they want to see this across the country. Democrat lawmakers were just yesterday on MSDNC asking for more of this all across the country, folks. Remember that. These people hate you, and they want to see you oppressed. Now, of course, this wouldn't be a historical moment without a useful idiot to parrot propaganda, Democrat propaganda, that is. And thus enter John Leguizamo, one of the most embarrassing celebrities on social media, hands down. This man proves that he deserved the role that he had on Ice Age. And for those of you who may not know, it's the gangly guy, Sid, with the eyes that go separate ways, and who's an utter moron. Looks like life imitates art, huh?
It's just beyond heartbreaking and heart-wrenching to see all these innocent, beautiful people looking for a better life, mothers, sons, daughters, fathers, who look just like my family, being picked up by pogroms and disappeared into gulags and detention camps. And their only crime was being brown and indigenous.
Oh, shut up.
They disappeared just like that. And then when American citizens are disgusted and protest, then Trump sends the National Guard when he couldn't even get the National Guard to go to protect our Capitol when it was being attacked in January 6th. The only reason for these mass deportations, who the architect is Stephen Miller and makes Trump happy, is racism. I mean, I just can't, there's no other reason. These people are innocent, loving human beings. And I'm disgusted. I can't take it anymore.
So leave. Get out of here. Your dramatic monologue about pogroms and gulags isn't some act of bravery. It's a lazy, dishonest script cooked up in the same kitchen that feeds the rest of Democrat hysteria. This isn't activism, folks. It's performative outrage for people who mistake volume for virtue. John Leguizamo, yes, Sid the Sloth, is now out here accusing the U.S. of mass ethnic cleansing because illegal immigration is finally being taken seriously again under Trump. He tosses around words like gulag and pogrom with the intellectual depth of a bumper sticker and the emotional control of a theater kid on a sugar crash. And let's be real, there are no gulags, no mass disappearances, no pogroms. What we do have are overwhelmed border facilities, record high illegal crossings, and a federal government finally trying to restore order after years of chaos. These so-called beautiful people are not being rounded up for being brown. They're being processed for breaking immigration law. That's not genocide, John. That's literally called having a border. And last I checked, wanting a sovereign nation didn't make you a fascist. It just made you somewhat of a person with an understanding of how government works. It just made you a person with, a moderate understanding of how the government works. But here's a deeper issue. This kind of rhetoric isn't just stupid, it's dangerous. It's designed to emotionally blackmail the public into abandoning common sense. You take a complicated policy challenge, mass illegal migration, strained resources, national security, and reduce it to a sob story about skin color and heritage. You shame enforcement while ignoring the consequences of the policy. You frame any opposition as racist, which shuts down actual debate and replaces it with this lazy political theater. And this is exactly what the modern left wants. They don't want to fix immigration. They don't want to have a conversation about it. They just want to weaponize it morally and demographically. If you resist, you're a bigot. If you ask questions, well, you're a white nationalist. And if you enforce the law, well, apparently now you're running a gulag. This is what happens when our cultural class is dominated by people who live in gated communities but want to open borders for everyone else. They project their guilt onto working class Americans, accuse a country of genocide, and then wonder why the nation is fractured beyond recognition. The emotional manipulation, the historical illiteracy, the elite detachment witnessed in this video, it's not just offensive, it's strategic. It's meant to dismantle rational governance in favor of moral chaos. So no, John, this isn't about brown skin or Stephen Miller. It's about the rule of law. It's about national identity. And it's about a country trying to claw its way back from the brink while celebrities sell out their platforms to push globalist nonsense wrapped in crocodile tears. You should be ashamed. America doesn't need more actors pretending to be revolutionaries. We need leaders with a spine and who will stand up for this country. Not people who come here, get everything they want, and then start waving the flag of a foreign nation they fled and burning the one which welcomed them. And speaking of retarded takes, this Democrat representative from Minnesota had this to say.
We have worked so hard to become a magnet for people from foreign countries. We are desperate to be a magnet for people from foreign countries. Do you want to solve your labor shortages? Do you want to grow the economy? Do you want to see more businesses created that develop the future of the Minnesota's communities? Do you know who does that work? It ain't white people from the U.S. I'm sorry, our track record on building new things in this country, it ain't whites. It's people from other countries.
This is where we are now, folks. A sitting Minnesota State Representative Lee Fink publicly declaring that white Americans aren't the ones building the future of this country. Not just questioning policy or proposing reforms, but outright stating that it ain't whites who create or build anything meaningful anymore in America. Just imagine for a second if someone flipped the races in that sentence. The outrage would be immediate, global, and career-ending likely. But when the target is white and the ideology is progressive, suddenly it's considered visionary, bold, anti-racist. In reality, it's neither bold nor visionary. It's lazy, reductionist bigotry disguised as economic insight. Now, let's dissect what's really happening here. This isn't about labor shortages. It's not even about immigration. It's about the left's addiction to identity politics, redefining success, contribution, and even citizenship along the lines of race and origin rather than merit or shared values. Fink's comments reflect the growing cultural current where denigrating native-born Americans, especially if they're white, is not only tolerated but celebrated, as if collective guilt is a substitute for actual governance. And ironically, it's all just one big lie. America's history is white, black, immigrant, native-born, and everything in between. The Industrial Revolution, well, built largely by poor whites. The tech boom, sparked by a bunch of Midwestern and coastal engineers, many of them born here. The farming infrastructure, that still feeds the country, mostly white and rural. Even today, the majority of small businesses in states like Minnesota are run by native-born Americans, white and non-white, who are deeply invested in their communities. But none of that nuance fits the progressive narrative that America must be constantly rebuked for its existence, especially by those who benefit most from it. But here's a deeper problem. This rhetoric doesn't just insult, it divides. It tells young Americans that their heritage is a burden, not a legacy. It teaches them that their identity, not their effort, determines their worth, and it creates an economic framework where national loyalty, cultural integration, and common purpose are secondary to importing the right kind of people with the right identity metrics. That's not nation building, by the way. It's ideological engineering. The left's obsession with tearing down the perceived sins of America has become so fanatical that they're now willing to alienate the very people they represent. They don't want unity. They want re-education. They don't want solutions. They just want scapegoats. And the result is a broken political discourse where building the economy becomes less about innovation and more about racial blame games. So it's never been more evident that this is bigger than one comment from one radical lawmaker. It's a symptom of a political class that's lost faith in the American people and now seeks to replace us culturally, demographically, and spiritually with something more compliant, more malleable, more global, something they can control. But a country that hates its roots won't grow anything. It'll just rot. And if we don't push back on this toxic ideology soon, the rot won't just be cultural. It'll be economic, civic, and existential. And when we do wake up from that nightmare, we'll realize that we're very much in a Marxist nightmare that we can't get out of. It's not that easy once you get in the box. And speaking of Minnesota State Representative, wow, this one is an embarrassing admission that we're about to hear. It really makes you wonder, what do they have in the water at the state assembly over in Minnesota? Because, man, the retardism is just running through everybody. All the time, nonstop.
My father, as the one processing the paperwork, put my grandmother down as his mother. And so I am illegal in this country. My parents are illegal here in this country.
Well, I can tell you one thing, folks. I do not envy ICE right now. They've got their work cut out for them. When even elected officials are going on live television and openly admitting they're in the country illegally, along with their parents, you start to realize just how far we've drifted from the rule of law. This isn't a fringe activist, by the way. This is a Minnesota state representative openly declaring they have no legal right to be in this country, and doing so not with shame, but with pride, like it's a badge of moral superiority. And that's the real story here. We're watching the normalization of illegality, where breaking immigration law isn't something to correct or resolve. It's something to celebrate, to platform, to build a political career on. We've gone from dreamers to lawmakers, from sanctuary cities to sanctuary legislatures. The message from the left couldn't be clearer. Laws are optional if your identity checks the right boxes. But let's connect the dots a little further here. This is what happens after decades of undermining national borders, vilifying immigration enforcement, and conditioning the public to treat citizenship as a form of oppression rather than a privilege. We've replaced the idea of assimilation with entitlement, of sovereignty with guilt. And now the system is so upside down that someone who admits to having a legal status, when someone who admits to having no legal status is sitting in office, collecting taxpayer money and helping to write the very laws they're not required to follow. So ask yourself, what does that say to legal immigrants? What does that say to citizens who follow the rules? What does that say about our institutions when lawmaking becomes a platform for lawbreaking? By the way, I think it goes without saying that this isn't about compassion. It's just about how this is corrosive behavior. A nation cannot function if its own representatives boast about ignoring the very laws they swear to uphold. And if we keep allowing this to slide, if we keep tolerating this inversion of justice in the name of progress, we won't have a country left to defend in a few years. And speaking of freak shows, well, this one is going to be interesting.
Today here in Los Angeles, agents of ICE raided 15 different neighborhoods. They raided an elementary school.
No, they didn't.
Think about the age of the children that means. 6, 7, 8. The parents had to flee, just up and running out.
No, they didn't.
The principal tried to announce that it was a drill. It was clear that it was not a drill. The principal locked down the school, and the children remained at the school crying and screaming and clinging to the teachers because they didn't know whether they would have a mom and dad when they got home. You can believe whatever you want to believe about immigration policy and who immigrants are, but this is not how you do it. This is violence. Trump has admitted ICE is made up of January 6th insurrectionists.
Oh my God.
It's the Proud Boys. It's the Oath Keepers. After the election, I was wondering, where did they go? After the inauguration, I thought they're awfully quiet. They got their way. They got their boy in office. Why aren't they gloating? Why aren't they parading in the streets? They were getting their equipment together, I think, getting their balaclavas to cover their faces while they oriented themselves in their new job working for ICE. I don't even think it was official. Certainly Congress didn't approve any of this. They don't have badges. They don't have identification. None of the conditions that government employees, federal government employees, are supposed to adhere to.
Are we actually supposed to take this seriously? A drag queen in antenna-sized eyelashes is now our national security analyst, apparently spinning fan fiction about ICE raids at elementary school graduations like it's the prequel to Handmaid's Tale, the Pride Edition. This entire rant is based on completely false rumors. No ICE raids happened at schools, no kids were crying in locked classrooms, and no Proud Boys are moonlighting as undercover immigration agents. But facts don't matter anymore when the performance feels righteous for a leftist. Just slap on some glitter, toss out phrases like violence and insurrection, and watch the audience nod along as reality evaporates. Now, what's really happening here is deeper than one unhinged monologue. It's the culmination of a culture that rewards delusion as long as it aligns with the narrative. This drag queen isn't spreading misinformation. No. In the left's mind, they're speaking truth to power, even when everything they're saying is objectively, demonstrably, and unequivocally false. The goal isn't truth, it's control. It's about turning immigration enforcement into a moral evil, ICE agents into fascists, and anyone who supports a functioning border into a white supremacist. That's not activism, by the way. It's just theatrical hysteria designed to paralyze common sense and emotionally blackmail the public into submission. So ask yourself, how much of what you believe is rooted in actual objective truth, and how much has been performed into you? When emotion replaces evidence and spectacle takes the place of seriousness, what kind of society are we actually building? We're being conditioned to applaud delusion, to fear enforcement, and to redefine reality through whatever lens flatters the leftist narrative. But at what cost? Who benefits when law is framed as cruelty, when chaos is called compassion, and when questioning the script makes you the villain? If we don't start pulling back the curtain, demanding clarity over theatrics and valuing truth over tribal comfort, we won't just lose the plot, we'll lose the entire country that made this debate even possible in the first place. Anyway, you tell me what you think in the comments down below. Have a terrific day. Peace.